Hey guys, what's up? It is week 372, and I've noticed a couple issues popping up on my YouTube channel. A couple of reviews, weekly reviews, got hit for copyright strikes. They didn't take down the video, they blocked it until I removed the copyrighted material. Some of these are movies that were sent to me to review, others are not. So what I did was I had them delete the copyrighted footage and kept the weekly video up. Some of these are 8 months old, some are even older than that. So the problem with that is the timestamps get off, which I'm fine with, and part of that review is going to be cut out. Now, stuff like Sailor Girl, Gun Girl, Sailor Suit, that review's gone, or it's partial. Islands of the Evil Spirits is gone, 1981 movie, which kind of bums me out because I like to review everything. So these videos are no longer complete. Remember that these are all complete over on Spotify. There's a video format too on Spotify. But what I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to continue to just remove the copyrighted material. It's not worth re-uploading the entire video and starting over on the views, starting over on the comments. It's just really stupid. It clutters the channel. And if I get 5 or 10 reviews that hit the copyrights, I'm going to cut these reviews out and release them all in their own videos every couple months, every few months, depending how fast it happens. So, you know, if it takes a long time, I'll just release like 4 or 5. So they'll be like lost reviews or copyrighted reviews. They will no longer have the copyrighted footage, but they'll have the full audio, at least version of it, because I don't want to lose the reviews. So stuff like that in the future, look out for that. So if you see something called lost reviews, that's what that is. Also, look forward to, be looking out for the 1981 year in review essay that I did. I did a lot of hard work on it. Hopefully it does well. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Please comment, like, share, whatever you guys want to do. You know, I know people are like, I don't do this for views, I don't do this for this. And, you know, I obviously don't, because I've been doing this a very long time for a little, you know, in comparison to other people. But there comes a certain point when you hit so much work in where it's no longer worth your time. And that's what I felt about acting in general as well. I felt like I was putting a lot into it and not getting out as much as I was putting into, not even close. And I was no longer enjoying the process as much as I used to, so therefore I backed away and used my free time for something else. I don't want to not make these video essays. I probably will give it a couple more swings, even if they never really take off. The first one did okay. This one, I hopefully does well as well. So, yeah, let's hop into the reviews. The first one up is from Arrow Video. This is a 4K, and this is American Gigolo. And this is a movie that I saw parts of it on television, famous for starring Richard Gere and Hutton. What is the actress's name in this? Hutton, I can't remember. Also, Bill Duke is in here. Yeah, Richard Gere in this movie. It's kind of, I don't know, at the start of the rumors about, a lot of people always made fun of Richard Gere because women found him so very attractive and like the guys would be jealous. They'd always say really nasty rumors about him. But this is directed by Paul Schrader. This is, I believe, his third film, and he's talking about in the special features, I got 3 movies before they blacklist me. I got to have one hit in it. So he had Hardcore 74 with George C. Scott, which I've always enjoyed that movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it. And then he made Blue Collar, I think 78, with Richard Pryor, Harvey Keitel, Yaphet Kotto. Excellent film. Those weren't really hits, though, I guess, from my understanding. And then he had American Gigolo with Richard Gere, and I guess this one took off. It did really well. The 4K looks excellent. It sounds excellent getting into this. So this is a story of a gigolo, and before that it was more of a European concept, so therefore American. You know, it wasn't really widely known. It was more of a female profession, right? Prostitution and that kind of thing. So Richard Gere is a younger guy. He probably like early 30s, and he sleeps with like a lot of older, well-off women. People hire him. He has a couple pimps, but he kind of goes on his own and freelances, makes a lot of money, lives a very comfortable life. He starts to kind of have a relationship with this politician's wife who really likes him, and he's kind of an avoider, but it inevitably happens. And as it goes on, he has one really weird kind of client thing here, and what happens is that woman ends up dead. They all kind of point signs to him. It seems like maybe he's being blackmailed. Hector Lozadano is a detective, great actor as well. And he's really funny. His interactions with Richard Gere are wonderful because he's kind of just a normal kind of blue-collar cop, and Richard Gere's kind of giving him pointers or making fun of him, and they kind of go back and forth. Bill Duke is also a pimp, really excellent performance. Most people would know Bill Duke from his directorial films like Hoodlum and stuff like that, but he also acted, of course, in Predator. That's the big one, right? Predator and Commando, the 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. But you know what struck me right away was the soundtrack, and who was it? Giorgio, I can't think of his name. The one who did the, I believe he's the one who did the remix lyrics on the Metropolis 80s version with the new score and all that kind of stuff. So he made this little theme in here that is very memorable to anybody that's ever heard it, because it also is the theme for Blondie. And they met up with Blondie met up, and she was told all these lyrics and things like this. Is all told in the special features, and she was supposed to be like make this song about man like power and whatnot to those, basically the instrumental version of that song, and she made Call Me, which is one of the most popular songs of the 80s. So that's really cool that this movie had Call Me. It was made for American Gigolo. Awesome. But the acting is wonderful. The direction's wonderful. It's got a great great sets, great locations. I don't even think there was any sets. They're all probably great locations. You're dealing with a lot of high-class people, a lot of rich people. The story unfolds really well, and Paul Schrader said what he was trying to do was kind of, explore that idea of somebody finally accepting love or whatnot. It ends on kind of a weird note, It ends on a note, and I've noticed this with a lot of Paul Schrader movies. They never give you what you expect or what you think it logically should. No, I wouldn't say logically. Sometimes it may be too logically for a film, if that makes any sense. Sometimes people are like, it should be this way in the movie, this is how it unfolds, or there should be, people are always like, it should be very happy or very sad or very matter of fact, and life's not like that. And the way this movie ends, it leaves on a lighter note than I expected, a strand of hope in there. But you get to see this really attractive, clean-cut guy, nice fancy clothes, kind of go from that into down and dirty and desperate, which is always an entertaining thing in films. The thing about Richard Gere as an actor was he was an actor that I'd seen in a handful of things, Pretty Woman, Mothman Prophecies, but he never really did anything for me. I was like, it's just Richard Gere, it's whatever, he's not my guy. Not that there's anything wrong. Most actors and actresses, I think, are pretty fucking good that are in big movies. It's just that they don't ever do a movie or a film that you're like, that was my thing, that was kind of my performance, I like that I can relate, I enjoy that, it's good, it's interesting. And this one is, and I think Gere's very good in it, obviously. He's a good actor, he's a popular actor. I remember he's in Jekyll, too, the remake with Bruce Willis. But American Gigolo is great, it looks great, it sounds great. I'd only seen parts of it on television, to be honest. It kind of was one of those things that would pop up on TV. God knows who played it on television, but it was there, and I would check it out here and there, but I never saw the full thing until I sat down with this. And now I've seen Paul Schrader's first 3 films. I think his next film might be Cat People from '82, which I have seen. Very good film as well. Interesting remake, to be honest. But I think out of all of them, if I had to pick a favorite, I think I'm going to go Blue Collar. I think Blue Collar is the one that I can relate to and understand the most, and just being, in a union worker in a factory and stuff like that. But he's an interesting director, obviously a writer before, wrote Taxi Driver and a slew of other things, Rolling Thunder, both really great movies. But as far as his features are concerned, here's what we have. Original mono, stereo, and 5.1 options for audio. English subtitles, brand new audio commentary with critic Adrian Martin, brand new interview with writer-director Paul Schrader, 6 Ways to Sunday, brand new interview with actor Hector Lozadano on detecting his character, The Business of Pleasure, brand new interview with actor Bill Duke on Leon's profession, really like that. Montages and Monologues, a brand new interview with actor Richard Halsey on putting American Gigolo together. The Nonconformist, a brand new interview with camera operator King Baggett on American Gigolo. Man Machine, a brand new interview with music supervisors and KCRW DJ Dan Wilcox on music of Giorgio Moroder. American Icon, a brand new interview with Professor Jennifer Clark on American Gigolo and fashion landscape of the 80s. Original trailer, image gallery, reversible sleeve, featuring original newly commissioned artwork by Tommy Pocket. This is definitely one of these movies where people will definitely take the style away. I think this was probably a very influential movie of the 80s to kickstart the 80s, 1980. But it also has a nice booklet. Great release from Arrow. Great movie. I'm glad I got to check it out finally. Okay, the next one here is from Eureka Films, and this is Miracle Fighters. This one's actually from '82, but it's not a horror film, so I'm not going to count it. It's obviously a martial arts, kung fu kind of fun film. So this one I had not really seen, so I popped this in, and I pretty much enjoyed it. In the very beginning, there's a guy, and he disobeys, like the emperor. He's supposed to kill his lover because it's forbidden. He refuses. They kill her anyways. He fights the kings, and to escape, he kidnaps the king's or the emperor's son. Runs away. They follow, and what happens is he does escape. The Emperor's son does die. He replaces his son with somebody else, and he kind of lives in isolation, lives in hiding, raising this kid and whatnot. So there's bad guys constantly look for him to try that deal the Emperor's son to think it's the heir of the kingdom. And there's a real mean kind of crazy guy that has like fantastical whimsy powers and everything like that, and that kind of aspect. But what happens is this guy's master dies, and he's kind of pushed the kid pushed away, and he ends up finding these two kind of weird sorcerers that are always at each other's throats. These two old people. One's a woman played by a man, I'm pretty sure, and one is a guy, and they're always bickering, and they divided their courtyard in half, stay on your side, and they both kind of fight for this guy's, to train him. So they split him and train him throughout days, and these two are constantly bickering. And what happens is this main villain finds out who he is, or who he thinks he is, and he comes after him. He wants to take him back to the kingdom. The sorcerers end up going back at him and all sorts, and there's a lot of zany, goofy, silly comedy. But what really put this one over was the finale, and where our lead has to enter this mixed martial arts tournament and survive all these things, but he has to enter with all these other sorcerers, and he has to do all these tricks that he learned from the sorcerers. And this stuff is awesome because, of course, the bad guy's in there too. But the first thing is they have to get a key in this burning pot, and these sorcerers are killing each other, and they have to cross a bridge. It's very, fantastical fantasy, even kind of like traps, death traps and stuff, and I love that. But it has a great showdown at the very end. I thought Miracle Fighters was very fun, decent until the very end, and then it was great. So yeah, as far as the special features are concerned, we have I want to Cantonese and English dub, English subtitles, and then brand new audio commentary by East Asian expert Frank Jin, brand new audio commentary by action cinema experts Mark Leader and Artie Vamona, action master interview with Yang Wu Ping, archival interview with Frederick Armisen, and our service of the great musician, interview with Fist Fong, the Shakespeare of Yuen Wong Ping, an interview with John Kring, reversible slip. Yeah, and this looks pretty good. It sounds good. Great cover art. I love that cover art on that one. That's really good stuff. They're not always great, to be honest, with the new ones. But yeah, great stuff. Miracle Fighters from Eureka Films. All right, this next one is from Eureka Films as well, and this is a twofer. We're going to start with this is Beast Fighter is what they call the set with two Sonny Chiba movies, Japanese films here, Karate Bullfighter and Karate Bear Fighter. We're going to start with Karate Bullfighter. These are based on a manga, which is based on a real guy's true life, so there's some truth to this story. Yeah, this first one, I'm going to be honest, I liked it, but it was one of these ones that I felt it didn't have as much story, or the story was just kind of plodding along here. It didn't catch my attention as much as the second one, which had more of a high drama feel. First one's still good. So Sonny Chiba in the very beginning of this movie kind of walks in this like martial arts tournament. He's in rags. He's not really supposed to be there. And they're like, who's this guy? And he ends up stomping everybody. He gets to the finales and he does something that's a little overboard, and they defending himself when he shouldn't. But he ends up winning this tournament. He ends up in the war, of course, and there's this really dark scene where he takes out his aggressions on a prostitute who he thinks is servicing American men because it's after the war and Japan has lost and there's a lot of pride there issues. But that's not the case, and he feels like he's done an unserviceable thing, and he tries to, get this person, to forgive him for what he's done. It doesn't really necessarily work that way. But, he becomes kind of a loser in certain aspects here, and he's ungodly tough. And the iconic scene is, of course, he takes a bull head on. And he kills this bull. It's intense. And there's parts where he is shamed in what he's done. He ends up fighting these Yakuza kind of guys in a bar and kills one. And he feels responsible for a lot of it as him kind of paying his dues to everything until eventually he can go back and perform martial arts. Chiba's good in it. The action's pretty solid. The bullfight is the highlight, I would say. It's pretty crazy. It's a long bullfight. But yeah, Karate Bullfighter, I wish I had more to say about it, but I really do not. So we're going to move on to the second one. Okay, so now with Karate Bear Fighter, this one here, our guy, Sonny Chiba, is kicked out of the martial arts group, and he ends up starting to run with some Yakuza that he knew from the military. Kind of this guy ends up helping him out, and he becomes his bodyguard. And like the first film, there is this kind of storyline, now more is coming to me, the first film, where he is training kind of this younger guy, this underling, and this underling ends up starting a fight with these other guys, these other kind of dojo and everything like that. And this one, so he is kind of this bodyguard for Yakuza, and there's a guy impersonating him because he's a world-famous karate master. There's this guy impersonating him and everything like that, and that guy's sidekick. And when they realize who he is, the other Yakuza kind of beat these guys up, and And the guy threatens him and says, "You're not real either. You're just a thug now. You used to, you know, you don't deserve the attention or the praise you get. You're just a nobody like us." And he kind of takes that to heart, and he starts training this guy to be more of a martial artist. But that kind of complicates things, and he has a fallout with the Yakuza, and he also is kind of headbutting with this other martial arts gang who are really shitty. They're actually the worst villains in the movie. At one point, they kill one of his, friends, and he kind of vows revenge. He cripples this guy, and this kind of sets him up. He runs away into the wilderness, and he's become a logger, and he ends up hurting this drunk, because this young kid, and it starts to relate with this young kid, and he feels responsible. Again, this is a thing where Sonny Chiba's character constantly feels responsible for his actions. He always just goes overboard and hurts people, and he's always regretful and feels like making it right. So he starts this relationship with this kid, and he feels kind of bad for what he did to his father, although his father was in the complete wrong here. And he ended up breaking his father's arm, and this guy has an accident logging. And nobody can afford to pay his medical bills. He's going to die and leave this kid an orphan. Sonny Chiba was an orphan, so they have that connection. So to make up for the money, he's going to have this big bear fight. But of course, by this bear fight being broadcasted and everything like that, he's going to fight a bear for money. The bad guys hear about it, and they come after him. And that's kind of the plot of this one. The bear fight is pretty awesome, pretty gory for this kind of movie. Yeah, this one I think is better. I think it's more, heartfelt. I think the relationship with the kid is a stronger relationship than he has with his previous kind of student. He also has a student relationship in here. It feels like they knew the first one was a good film and had a good character, but it was kind of like very thin. The plot was paper thin to me. And I've seen so many of these movies where it's like, I'm mad at the dojo guys, yada yada, I'm going to go somewhere else. They do add the element of the World War II kind of thing and the love interest in the first film, but I still think it's a little bit more paper thin than the second one. I think adding in that kind of side plot, the second story in here, gave it a little bit more life. But they're both really good. They look good and they sound good. As far as the special features are concerned, we have original dub audio. We have the dubbed English version for the first film, but the second film is only in Japanese. They're both in Japanese if you want to watch. And then we have audio commentary with Mike Letter and Artie Venema. In Search of Ultimate Truth, brand new video essay by Jonathan Clemens, author of Brief History of Martial Arts, alternate Champion of Death opening sequences. That's cool because they talk about the guy this is based on and go through all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but these are good films, entertaining films. I don't think they're the most memorable, but I do think they are pretty entertaining and worth your time if you're interested. Okay, next one up is from Well Go USA, and this is The Last Stop in Yuma County. And I heard a lot of great things about this, and the special features on here let us know that the producer put up his house to make this movie. Now that is insane. That's respectable as hell. I mean, it's crazy. It's a big chance to take. This stars Jim Cummings, Jocelyn Donahue. Who else pops up in here? Alex Esso, Richard Brake, who is excellent in here, and some other familiar faces. The guy from No Country for Old Men, who's like, how much you lost on a coin toss? Oh, we called about 7:30. He's also in Hateful Eight. He's in Sacrament. That guy's really great. I love seeing him pop up in more and more movies. He's really good. So 310 to Yuma. I meant 310 to Yuma. Last Stop in Yuma. I imagine that's where the title came from. A lot of people are saying this was like, kind of like a dark comedy, film noir, Tarantino style thing. And I 100% see that. Even when they kind of do the diegetic music in here, it's very Tarantino-esque. But, he's pulling a lot of stuff from the 70s, so let it be. We'll do that because, it usually makes for an entertaining movie if they have some sort of decent style or a good story. So what we have here is a period piece, if I'm not mistaken. It is Arizona in the middle of the fucking desert. Kind of hard to tell when we're in period pieces, but I'm pretty much 100% sure. So there was a bank robbery in a green Pinto, and yeah, they got away with $700,000. That's a lot of money. Jim Cummings is a knife salesman. He's going to see his daughter. You kind of get the idea that he's just a wreck. Jim Cummings plays these kind of nervous wreck kind of characters, anxiety-ridden characters the best, In Wolf of Snow Hollow, he has the breakdowns and stuff like that, and the beta tests. He's a really interesting kind of actor that I'm sure has been doing this and working in film for years, but I didn't notice him until recently, but I'm glad I have noticed him. He's very good. So what happens is he stops by this gas station. We're out of gas. There's a motel, gas station, kind of diner, all in the same plot. That's all there is for 100 miles or so. And the guy tells him, hey, I'm waiting on the gas truck. We were supposed to get it earlier. It hasn't been here. It's 100 miles away to the next gas station. So there's a diner right there. You can wait in there. So he sees the waitress get dropped off by her sheriff husband. He goes in and starts waiting. And the next people that show up are in a green Pinto. Richard Brake and his buddy, brother, get out. and his brother is a moron. He's hilarious. I don't know if he's actually his brother. He refers to him as his brother. Richard Brake is exceptional, and Richard Brake is a character actor. It's been working for years. He's in Doom from 2005. He's been working for a long, long time, right? And he's one of these guys that's finally been in more stuff, and I think he's getting pushed more towards the front. And I like that. That's kind of like Michael Rooker. I watched for 20 years before Michael Rooker had been in the big Guardians of the Galaxy and Walking Dead. And you're like, thank God that guy finally got some fucking real recognition. I mean, he's always popular character actor, always used a lot, but never really got to star in anything besides maybe Cliffhanger and Henry. And those are great movies, great performances, but he had been pushed to the back a little bit more. And Richard Brake's getting pushed a little bit to the front, and I like that because he's exceptional in this. Well, of course, these two are the bank robbers, and they tell them, don't say nothing. And as it goes on and on, more people need gas. And we learn what happened to the gas truck in the very beginning, and this place gets loaded with a bunch of people. Of course, tragedy strikes. There's some comedic dialogue, a lot of zany, weird characters. It's built up really well. I got chills when it finally hit that crazy moment, similar to, I don't want to give it away, but let's say Inglourious Basterds. In that moment, it builds up, it builds the characters, and then boom, something crazy happens. High body count in this film, high, very darkly humorous, nerve-wracking. Loved all the characters, loved all the dialogue. Barbara Crampton's also in here. I wouldn't say it's a comedy, but has a dark comedic bend to it. It's a crime film. Exceptionally well acted, good dialogue, good squibs, practical shit going on here. He said great diegetic music with Roy Orbison, who's great. Everything's great. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of character in its setting, in its places. The heat, you can feel it. Just they walk in, and I was like, that place has no AC, you can tell. And then she's like, AC units broke. I was like, yeah, you can tell it's hotter and shit in there. But Last 10 to Yuma was exceptional. These people worked their asses off and made a great movie. It's kind of crazy to think, like this movie was made independently by this guy. He put up his house to produce it, and I think it's worth it. Hopefully you get your money, because this movie deserves to make money. I don't even know how that shit works anymore. Does anybody make any money making movies, really, except the big companies, and maybe they don't even make them. It's a crazy time for movies. It's a crazy time to be alive, but great film. Last stop in Yuma County. I would recommend this highly, from Wellgo USA. All right, let's hop into those 1982 movies. Bang!
I know I'm human. If you were all these things, then you just attack me right now. So some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why?
For a girl like you to come into my life, I've been waiting for a girl like you, who love and will survive. I've been waiting, someone new.
What's in the basket?
How do we know she is alive?
Please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to. Please stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
First up is the immortal Oasis of the Zombies from Redemption on Blu-ray here. Terrible fucking cover art. Why didn't they use the original cover art, which is actually great? Maybe they couldn't get the rights. That and Zombie Lake had both great cover art. This cover art, doo-doo butter, and I think everybody and their brother knows. So, you know, this is an infamous Nazi zombie movie back when there was only 4 of them. There was Shockwaves from 77, Night of the Zombies from 81 by Joel M. Reed, not to be confused with the Bruno Mattei movie, and then we have Zombie Lake from 81 by John Roland. Which was started by Franco himself, and then we have Oasis of the Zombies, just Franco. And I always remember the Shockwaves poster, like, the best Nazi zombie movie. I'm like, that's not really saying much when you got 4 in, and a couple of them are unfucking watchable. So Oasis of the Zombies is a movie that I tried to watch on DVD like 25 years ago. I popped in, and I was like, hey, I'm going to watch Oasis of the Zombies. I love zombies, yeah. And I was like, this is dog shit. I'm like fucking 14. This is crap-ola. So I turned it off. Watching it now as a much more advanced, sophisticated gentleman, I can realize that. No, but honestly, as somebody that's put up with a lot more crap and maybe sees things differently in film in general, this wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. I felt the same way about Zombie Lake when I rewatched it. So, Oasis of Zombies, now it is slow, it is plotting, it is, using war footage from a different movie in there in shoddy, shitty way. Like, it's a Eurocine movie, so what do you expect? And a kind of cheap Euro horror film, they do it a lot. So yeah, that happens. Essentially, the plot is as follows. In the very beginning, there's these 2 kind of older guys, and they're like, we're going to figure this out. 2 girls get killed by some Nazi zombies in the desert at first. And the guy comes and he's going to pay for this trip to go find this gold that's supposedly in this oasis, this desert. And he kills the other guy when he finds the map. He runs away. This guy was father to this young man who has also heard about the oasis with the possible gold in there. And him and his high school, him and his college buddies are going to go find it. It's really weird because it's like an old guy plot for an old guy. It's like, we're going to go find that gold, like Sierra Madre or some shit, or any Indiana Jones. And it's like, how can we get teenagers or college students in this fucking movie? Because we need some nudity, we need some sex, we need some young, good-looking people. We can't just have usual Howard Vernon or something walking around. Although he's unfortunately not in this. But they wanted obviously to have younger people to appeal. So they're like, how can we incorporate young kids in this movie about gold finding, which doesn't scream young to me. Although we have that Mexican horror film, Grave Robbers, which also has young people searching for gold, or Graveyard Disturbance by Limberto Bava. Eventually they were looking for gold too at the end of that movie after they escape. Who the fuck knows? But regardless, so yeah, like, these kids end up going, and there's also these other people that went there, and there's zombies in this oasis. They get picked off here and there. There's some really, really poor day for night, which you can expect. The zombies mostly have just shit thrown on their face. They look like really, they have a worm here, and there's like a couple puppets. Like, there's some weird ones with big, bulgy, funny fucking eyes that never blink. I don't know. And they pick people off slowly. There's some nudity. There's some sex. Overall, it's okay. There's some good cinematography. There's a great location. Franco's great for the location. It's kind of beautifully shot for how, dull the whole thing is. But that's good. I mean, if it's going to be kind of dull, you want to look at something pretty. And Oasis the Zombies does have some pretty things in there. Some of the people are pretty. Some of the shots are pretty. The location is pretty. Some pretty things, and it's pretty dull. Do I hate it? No. Do I love it? No. It's Oasis the Zombies. It's just Franco. It's mid-tier Franco. It's not the worst Franco, but it ain't fucking top-tier Franco, I'll tell you that. It ain't top-tier Franco at all. As far as the special features, there really isn't any. There's some trailers, and you can watch it in French or English. That's about it. You got subtitles for the French version. But that's Oasis the Zombies from Redemption. Why is that cover so bad? I don't understand. Okay, the next one here is a first-time watch. This is The House Where Evil Dwells. This is a Scream Factory double feature here. This is 1982, of course, like I said. And it's directed by Kevin Connor. Now, Kevin Connor is an interesting director because he directed 4 of these adventure movies like Warlords of Atlantis and At Earth's Core with Doug McClure, who would be in Humanoids from the Deep. But he also did a few horror movies, From Beyond the Grave, the Amicus anthology, and he did Motel Hell in 1980, which is a great movie, and it's very American feeling, so he's a British director, so that's kind of interesting. And Kevin Connor went on to direct Where Evil Dwells. I think there's also an alternative name here, and this is Japanese-oriented kind of horror film here, and Doug McClure's in it, Eddie Albert's in it from Galaxy of Terror the year previous. So what happens here is years ago there was this kind of in kind of Japanese, I say samurai times. The time frames in the history of Japan is very confusing and very different eras and times like that I'm not 100% familiar with. Maybe 1400s. I think something like that. This woman is cheating on her husband with his best friend, and they end up killing each other and dying in this house. Eddie Albert is moving in with his daughter and his wife, who's actually Susan George, which is also a great genre actress. The year before she was in Venom. She's also in Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, and Straw Dogs. Great actress. So what happens is they move into this house. Doug McClure set it up for them, and it's haunted, he tells them, but they don't care. So they start going in here, and almost immediately they start having these spirits kind of go into them and take them over and do things like that. Susan George starts trying to sleep with Doug McClure, of course. Not to be confused with Troy McClure. But Doug McClure, is Doug McClure in it, but sleeps with him, and they're starting to relive it, right? To recreate that time. Similar like Japanese ghosts, we kind of do that, right? Like they kind of have to have that constant playing out factor. And I think that's Ghost in general. So what happens is they think they figure it out. There's some monks down the street that help them out. There's some spooky things that happen, shit lifting up by itself. But the weirdest moments is obviously when they use a bunch of Dungeness crabs, and I think they're fake puppets. Some of them look maybe like they're real. That little girl was awfully close to these crabs. And they're big. Ugly fuckers. But there's these, some are puppets though, but these giant crabs attack them and everything, and like they're having like the Japanese like samurai voice, like, and you're just like, we're not doing this, are we? Overall, I think this is pretty decent. It ends on a dark note. It gets kind of crazy, kind of gory. Overall, I enjoyed House Where Evil Dwells. Would I watch it again? Probably. I kind of enjoyed it. I dug it. Eddie Albert's all right as the lead. Susan George is pretty decent. Doug McClure, I like all the actors just fine. They do fine. Nobody's like, that was an amazing performance, sir. They do the whole ghost in the teacup or soup, which reminds me of Qui-Gon, where I believe there was the ghost was he in the bottle or the thing of water or something like that? But that's recreated in here and said the ghost in the soup, which has to be a shout out to Qui-Gon. The shortest story in that one, another anthology. So yeah, so here we go. The House Where Evil Dwells. Not bad, not great, but not bad. Okay, the next one from 1982 is The Dark Room, and this is an Australian, more thriller picture. And not to be confused with The Black Room from 82, which is a much better fucking movie. Dark Room, obviously going to involve some photography here. So we have this kind of Australian kid who's at college. He's weird. He's an outcast. Is he college? He's back from college, I think. He's got a part-time job, and he doesn't really get along with his dad at all. His dad and him have a shaky relationship. He gets along more with his mother. When he finds out that his dad is having an affair with a younger model girl, he starts to kind of spy on them, and he starts to kind of meet this model girl without letting her know that that's her father. That's his father she's sleeping with. And he starts to take pictures of her, becomes kind of her friend, becomes completely obsessed with her, and even tries to sleep with her. Meanwhile, the father's having an affair with her. and he's taking pictures, all sorts of things like that. He starts to kind of blackmail, and it gets kind of crazy and depressing. It's always for like you always think like middle-aged guy running away with a young girl. But the main guy, I'm not saying you need to have a likable character as your kind of main character at all, but he has to be interesting, and I'm kind of over the kind of like, I'm a mad teenager with angst that nobody understands, and I just don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. And sometimes it works, especially when it's more played in kind of satirical or comedic way, like Heathers or something like that. That's brilliant. But a lot of times, like I like weird kind of characters that have problems, like Dream No Evil or Norman Bates and that kind of vibe. But this guy, not a bad actor, honestly, but the character is just tedious. He's a very tedious character. It doesn't interest me very much. I don't need to like the character. I just need to want to watch him for an hour and a half. And he does a good performance, but it's pretty rough. It's kind of dull movie overall. It's plotting. It's boring. Not much happens until the climax. And it's very frustrating to watch this guy. I mean, I just hate when people do this kind of shit to me. I'm such a person that it's like, if I'm doing something and if you try to stop me, I'm not gonna allow it. Like, if the way this guy thinks is like, nah, we're gonna kill each other right now. I'm just not letting you just drive me to some other location. No, just kill me right now or I'm going to kill you. That's how it's going to play out. And that kind of stuff starts to drive me. As the older I get, the less I care. Like, I'm not doing that. Like there's no way they get me to do that at that point. But it's just kind of nerve-wracking. And I've had a problem with a lot of Australian movies that I haven't heard of. Like, so going through the 80s, like if I'd heard of it, like, oh yeah, that's a great movie. Like, if you watch Patrick, Patrick's good. Long Weekend or Turkey Shoot or Mad Max, those are good. Road Games, it's good. But when you're like, I don't know if I've heard of Stage Fright, aka Nightmares from 1980. Maybe, I think I have. You watch it, you're like, dull. Or Killing at Heaven's Gate or Heaven's Street. You're like, dull. A lot of these Australian movies I haven't heard of have been dull. I've not found a fucking hidden gem like I found from other countries. Finding hidden gems from Mexico or Spain or Italy or America or Canada. I'm not finding any fucking hidden gems from Australia. They're just not there. So if you've heard of it so far, I'm sure there's going to be a couple. But, I mean, 82's got some great Australian movies. Turkey Shoot, Next of Kin. Just some good stuff. But, yeah, I've not found a hidden gem yet from Australia from the first 3 years so far into 1980. So all the ones that I liked, I've heard about. So, yeah, The Dark Room. I don't think it's worth it. Okay, the Patreon pick was from Nick Mua, and this is from 1999. And I guess this could be the weekly western. It's more of a war film, so it's Ride with the Devil by Ang Lee. Now, Ang Lee, of course, did Brokeback Mountain, which I've only seen parts of, and I've seen his Hulk movie, which is a terrible superhero movie, but I don't think he's really suited to make superhero movies. He's pretty critically well-received director, Ang Lee, and this one I had never seen. When I started it, I'm not going to lie, it's got a bizarre cast for this kind of thing. It's not who you think would be in here. Tobey Maguire, Skeet Ulrich, Jonathan Brandis, John Rhys Meyers. Who else pops up in this thing? Jim Cassavel. I think that's pretty much the cast. Jewel is in here. There's a lot of older actors that you would know and stuff like that. But the thing is, you watch a lot of these movies where they have these period piece Southern films, and there's a lot of hard to find character actors. And I remember that movie, what was that one that came out a few years ago that Netflix put out? The Devil You Know, or something like that. And it had a great cast, and it was the most missed cast, poorly fucking on the nose written movie I'd seen in years. For how good the cast was, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. Where it has just so many good actors and they just seem very miscast, like from Bill Skarsgård to Robert Pattinson. Everybody's just like, they don't belong in this movie. And when I first started this, seeing Tobey Maguire play like this Southern guy and Skeet Ulrich, I was like, I don't know about this, man. This seems really weird and shaky. But as it progressed, I kind of was realizing what they're going for. These are young men fighting this war, this civil war. They're following the South. They're following these bushwhackers guys that basically live not generally in the army, but they're in the woods. They're kind of taking some shots and riding into the woods and whatnot. And that's kind of who they're following. And they realize these guys are 19, 20, 22 years old. They're very young. And they're willing to die for their cause. And you kind of, Jeffrey Wright's also in here. How could I forget him? He's excellent. But, And what it does is it follows basically 4 characters, one of which is Simon Baker from Land of the Dead, Jeffrey Wright, Skeet Ulrich, and of course Tobey Maguire. And these 4 are kind of the main characters in here. And, Simon Baker and Jeffrey Wright's there helping Simon Baker because he feels he owes him. They're friends, and he's fighting for the South, Jeffrey Wright, an African-American guy. While, it feels almost like Tobey Maguire's fighting for Skeet Ulrich. Because they grew up together, and his dad, Tobey Maguire's dad, was frickin' a unionist, so he didn't want anything to do with this stuff, but he ends up doing this. The action in this film is excellent. There's a scene where they're burning down a house and they're running out. They burn out. The Union guys are burning the house, and the Confederate guys, these bushwhackers, got to run out, and that's just the shots in here. There's these big lugs and everything. If you get hit, you're pretty much fucked. Gangrene sets in. They explode everything. They do as much damage as possible. Basically little cannonballs, muskets or whatever the hell, and they're just damaging. And you can hear the thuds when they hit. And when people get shot, it's pretty brutal. It seems like pretty well directed, well done action scenes, and I thought they were great. The drama's good. The characters are pretty good, and believe it or not, if you would have told me the MVP of this movie was Jonathan Rhys Meyers, I'd have like bullshit. And he plays this kind of real sleazy, kind of psychopathic, Southern guy who's just looks really kind of paper thin, ill, with the long hair and the crazy eyes. And he's an Irish guy, so it's crazy he's playing this, Southern guy. And some of the accents, you get to this point, right, when you're doing a period piece Southern movie, and you're not using grizzled old character actors, and sometimes those guys come across as cowboys, but you're just so used to it, that's what you think. I think it'd be Warren Oates and Ben Johnson and everybody from a Peck and Paw movie in these movies, right? So, but you got to realize these are very young men fighting this war, and the dialogue in the South is more kind of weird and poetic and strange in a lot of ways. You think Mark Twain or something like that. And you're like, these guys are saying weird things. Like, it almost sounds like this weird kind of fucked up Shakespeare. And at first you're like, hey, well, they sound like, I don't know if they sound, and it's probably a little bit more accurate than a lot of us think it is. But I thought that after I adjusted to these things, and it's not, the period pieces I'm used to. Those exploitation movies are probably not very accurate, but that's what we accept, right? And I imagine the down and dirty of it all, and a lot of that is accurate too. Seeing, like, I guess a guy like Warren Oates would be more fitting in a Southern, like Major Dundee, right? The Peck and Paw movie, like, that feels more fitting, to be honest, those actors and characters and stuff. But they're probably too old for a lot of that, although they're in the military. Everybody fought in the fucking Civil War. But it took me some while to adjust to this, but by the end of it, I really enjoyed Ride with the Devil. I thought it was well acted. I thought the characters were good. It's a big epic journey, 2.5 hours long. And yeah, the characters do bite it. They do die. Jeffrey Wright's great. He's got some amazing dialogue in here, and he's a very interesting character. There's some good moments where they start reading Union people's mail, and that kind of, I guess, brings some insight to them and all these kind of things like that. But especially Tobey Maguire and Jeffrey Wright. But Ride with the Devil, great stuff. Good Patreon pick, and I'm glad I covered an Ang Lee movie on here. Finally, right? All right, let's get these questions, comments, concerns. Ken Coakley, Dawn of the Dead is one of my all-time favorite films. I got the 2-tape set when it first came out. I know the movie like the back of my hand, so when I watched it, I knew that was what was added, and that the beginning was edited differently. I ended up buying the Laserdisc box set. The commentary on the Laserdisc was the only on the Laserdisc. Commentary by George Romero, Christina Romero, Tom Savini on the DVD was different from the commentary on the Laserdisc, so I'm going to get them in I am going to get them in Rowville Mall cut. I hope Night of the Living Dead gets an AI treatment as well. I had heard that the lost Night of the Living Dead footage had been found. I met John Apples, and he sort of verified it, but that was in 2014. An AI cut couldn't be that bad, at least not as bad as a 30th anniversary cut. I have a problem with the Cemetery Zombies backstories, convicted murderer dying via electric chair. I always assumed that the electricity fried the brain, maybe making it unable to be revived. That was a black and white comic that came out 30 years ago. There's a prologue and epilogue. The prologue had the cemetery zombie being the owner of a farmhouse who died of a heart attack, and is back as a zombie who kills his wife and who's the corpse at the top of the stairs. Then a panel shows his footsteps going from the farmhouse to the cemetery. AI could be done to make hundreds of zombies. Now to Death Mine, aka Raw Meat. I saw Raw Meat under the title Death Mine at my local cinema. The director, Gary Sherman, was in attendance. In a Q&A, Sherman said that he doesn't like the title Raw Meat. I like the film under any title. Donald Pleasance was great in his comedic role as a sarcastic cop. Norman Rossington, who played the partner, was famous for being in the Beatles film A Hard Day's Night as their manager. Sherman pointed out during the Q&A. Sherman also pointed out that David Ladd, son of legendary Alan Ladd, was in the film. After the Q&A, I told Sherman that David Ladd was also in the British film The Wild Geese as a drug dealer that Roger Moore forced to eat a bag of heroin. Sherman didn't know about that because he hadn't seen The Wild Geeses. Sometimes during last week's show, you mentioned liking Something Wicked This Way Come. It made me remembering seeing Don Coscarelli being interviewed, and you mentioned wanting to make that movie, but Disney bought the film rights and inspired him to make Phantasm. One last thing I wanted to give my condolences to the passing of your cat. At least you provided him with a loving home. Losing a pet is like losing a family member. Thank you. Goomba was a great cat. He was old, and I hated seeing him die. It was awful. I can't say anything else about it. Stephen Hyde, what a great analysis. Thank you. User, it doesn't have your name, so he says the best cut of Dawn of the Dead is called Zombie Complete Cut at 156 minutes, put out by XT Video Entertainment. And from what I'm looking at, that's probably like the Mall Hours cut, just maybe edited a little bit better with a little bit less sound edits. But to me, none of those cuts are very good. They're interesting, but they're all incredibly jarring because we're cutting back and forth between the music. And that's just not a good cut for me, because music and cues and stuff is so important to a movie, especially one that I've seen 100 times. But I'm going to check out this cut and see if I had seen this cut, how it relates to the Monroeville cut and the Malls Hour cut. But I appreciate you bringing it up. And he said the quality of the version is excellent. Nick Moore, I do believe I'll enjoy Hellbent even more after your review. You always give me a fresh perspective on things I've seen. I never expected anyone would release Criminal Lovers on Blu-ray. That film caused a bit of an uproar way back in '99. Though even then, Francois Ozon was already becoming an art cinema's latest. Enfant terrible, critics should have known what to expect. And isn't it Jeremy Renier so good in this film? I've adored his work since. The Promise and of course Brother the Wolf, he's definitely one of Belgium's best actors. Shame that many people confuse him with U.S. thespian Jeremy Renner, who's also very good naturally. Questions. Would you be out there doing the dirty knowing that a crazed killer is on the loose, like they seem to do in so many slashers? Probably not. How true do you think that based on actual events, horror movies are like Amityville Horror, The Entity, or The Exorcist? Probably not very true at all. I think that a lot of the possession is mental illness or some sort of, psychological issues. I do think they do think they're possessed. Amityville Horror, not true at all. Entity, I do think this person did think she was being held down and molested by something. And The Exorcist, I do think the kid thought he was possessed or he's very sick. In real life, it was a boy. But can you always tell when a movie is set in America but actually set in Canada? Also, are Canadians too nice? I mean, that's kind of an overdone trope that isn't true. My friend Moods, just like, he's a guy. He's not too nice. He's not too mean. Maybe compared to New Yorkers, I don't know. That's also a trope. People say New Yorkers are rude. So we're getting into... I can tell a lot of the times if it's shot in Canada. Most of the time. Not every time. I'm sure I got tricked. When I was younger, I always got tricked. So my condolences again on the loss of Goomba, saying farewell to pet never gets easier. Would that cat really have 9 lives but a loss? Maybe we'll meet them again someday. I hope so. Charlie Jick. Hi, I just discovered your channel. I really enjoy your reviews. I always have been checking out your older stuff. I always been checking out older stuff. I like that you mentioned some obscure movies that I've never heard of before, like Don't Go to Sleep. Do you think someday we'll release more of these TV movies on physical media? I really want films like The Haunted, 91, Curse of the Black Widow, Deadly Love, and Death Moon to get proper releases. It all depends on who owns the rights. I know Scream Factory put out a couple TV tears, and they said they didn't do very well. But I wonder how Kino's TV movies did. I don't know. I think that at this point, some of those would do well. I think Don't Go to Sleep would do well. It's a popular movie, but I don't know who owns the rights. I don't know about the elements either. Subjective Perspective Collective. Always good to hear the strange, bizarre, and hidden films you dig up and shine a light on from the past. Always keeping it interesting, man. Thank you. Dementia Von Grimm. I absolutely love Hellbent. So much fun. It's fun. Way Up, dude. Thank you. It gives me a thumbs up. Bad Brains Horror. Really enjoyed Ozon's The Swimming Pool. Great stuff. I'll have to check out more of his work. I did enjoy them. So I guess we're going to hop into the update. It's very quick, so I'm not going to do the video change, but there's 3 titles here. Got the 4K of Darkman, absolutely one of my favorite movies. Sam Raimi, love this movie. Can't wait to watch the 4K. Picked up a couple 1982 movies that I did not have on Blu-ray for some reason. Jekyll and Hyde, together again. Yeah, this is a spoof of sorts. Looks fun. I'll have pictures. Gonna check that out for 82. And then this one I had heard about. This is The Dead and the Deadly from Eureka. Imported this one in with Sammo Hung from 82. Looks like a lot of fun. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one. Me.